The night sky over the village was alive with thunder, the air heavy with dread as lightning danced across the clouds. A sudden stillness fell, and the wise elder Nia said, "The ancestors speak tonight, their voices carried by the storm." The resilient one, Amahle, clutched the family heirloom, her heart pounding with fear she could not name. The protector, Kofi, stood nearby, his hand resting on his spear, his eyes scanning the shadows with fierce loyalty. Suddenly, the earth shook, and the air was split by a scream from within the sacred hut. "Amahle," said, "it is Elder Nia," and rushed forward, her steps trembling on the damp soil. Within the hut, the wise elder lay gasping, his chest rising with his final breaths, his eyes burning with ancient fire. Elder Nia whispered, "A curse long forgotten, now reborn through betrayal." His words shook Amahle to her core, her spirit tethered to the ancestors yet breaking with grief. The storm raged louder, winds howling as if the spirits themselves lamented. The heirloom cracked in Amahle's hands, glowing faintly before dimming to black, its power drained. Amahle cried, "Why now, why me?" while Kofi pulled her close, whispering, "Stand strong, Amahle, your bloodline holds the truth." Lightning struck the sacred tree, and the village erupted in cries, the shock marking the beginning of Amahle's journey. Morning broke with eerie silence, smoke rising faintly from the sacred tree, its branches scorched black. Amahle sat by the ashes, clutching the heirloom, her voice breaking as she said, "I could not save him." The village gathered in mourning, their faces heavy with grief and fear, whispers spreading of a curse returned. The betrayer, Jabari, stood quietly among them, his eyes shadowed with envy though his lips carried false sorrow. Elder Nia's absence weighed like a stone, and Amahle felt the eyes of the ancestors upon her. Kofi said, "The spirits chose you, Amahle. Do not deny what is written in your blood." She stared into the horizon, torn between destiny and fear. The morning sun broke through clouds, casting light upon the ruins, a silent reminder that change had come. At the river's edge, Amahle washed her face, hoping to cleanse sorrow with water. Her reflection stared back, eyes carrying both fear and strength. The whisper of Elder Nia's final words echoed in her soul, a curse reborn through betrayal. The waters shimmered unnaturally, and a voice rose from beneath, an ancestor spirit murmuring, "Child of blood and storm, rise." Amahle gasped, falling to her knees, clutching the pendant tightly. Kofi approached silently, saying, "The river speaks to those who are chosen." Amahle cried, "I did not ask to be chosen." Yet the river calmed, its surface glowing faintly, as though blessing her. That evening, the village held a mourning ritual. Drums beat slow, chants filled the air, firelight casting trembling shadows on the earth. Amahle danced with the women, her body heavy yet her spirit drawn by the rhythm of ancestors. The elder women sang, "From earth to sky, guide our blood." Jabari joined the circle, his gaze lingering on Amahle with envy hidden under grief. Kofi said, "They watch you, Amahle, they see what I see." Amahle whispered, "I feel their weight upon me, and it frightens me." The flames rose higher, sparks reaching toward the heavens, as if spirits had descended to witness. Later, Amahle sat alone by the sacred tree's roots, the broken pendant resting in her lap. The night was calm now, stars watching silently above. She whispered, "Elder Nia, I am lost without you." The tree creaked softly, and a firefly glow surrounded her, ancestral presence comforting her solitude. Kofi approached, laying a hand on her shoulder, saying, "You carry more strength than you know." Amahle looked at him, eyes wet with both fear and determination, saying, "Then I must find the truth before the curse consumes us all." The sacred tree seemed to sigh in agreement, its leaves shimmering faintly as if alive. The morning sun rose golden over the village, its warmth contrasting the heaviness of grief. Amahle sat at the foot of the sacred tree, her fingers running over the cracks in the heirloom, her heart torn between sorrow and fear. Kofi stood silently beside her, his protective presence a steady shield, his eyes fixed on the horizon. Jabari approached, his voice smooth but tinged with hidden ambition as he said, "Perhaps the ancestors have chosen wrongly." Amahle. Her eyes flared with anger, yet her voice shook as she replied, "Elder Nia believed in me, and I cannot turn away." The villagers whispered, their faith wavering, their fear growing louder than their hope. A young child tugged at Amahle's robe, whispering, "Do not leave us." Amahle's tears returned, but so did her resolve, her voice steady as she said, "I will not abandon the path the ancestors placed before me." The wind stirred the branches of the sacred tree, as though the spirits themselves echoed her words. At dusk, Amahle followed Kofi into the sacred grove, where the air shimmered with ancestral presence. The trees whispered in the wind, and the scent of earth was thick with memory. Kofi said, "This place is where the ancestors speak clearest." Amahle knelt, her hands trembling over the soil, whispering, "Elder Nia, guide me." The grove filled with the sound of unseen voices, soft yet commanding, whispering, "Child of storm, bearer of heart, rise." Amahle gasped, clutching the pendant close, her body trembling with both awe and fear. Kofi placed his hand on her shoulder, steadying her, his voice calm, "You are not alone in this path." The air shimmered again, fireflies glowing brighter, painting the grove with golden light. Amahle whispered, "Then I will listen, though I fear what I may hear." The grove fell silent, a silence that spoke of heavy truths waiting to be revealed. Later that night, the villagers gathered around the fire, awaiting Amahle's words. Their faces reflected both desperation and suspicion. Amahle stood, her voice steady though her heart quivered. "The ancestors have spoken, and I will carry their burden." Murmurs swept through the crowd, some hopeful, others doubtful. An elder woman raised her voice, "You are young, Amahle. Can you carry what Nia could not?" Amahle said, "I do not claim his wisdom, but I claim his guidance." Jabari's eyes narrowed, his lips curving into a faint smile as he muttered, "Wisdom alone will not save us." Kofi glared at him but held his silence. The drums began to beat, slow and steady, grounding the crowd in tradition, their rhythm echoing across the village. Amahle placed the broken pendant over her chest, saying, "By this sacred heart, I accept the path of our bloodline." The villagers bowed their heads, the moment heavy with destiny. In the quiet of midnight, Amahle dreamed vividly. She stood in a vast plain of fire and water, her ancestors surrounding her in glowing forms. A tall spirit stepped forward, his voice deep and resonant, "Blood of our blood, you carry the wound and the hope." Amahle asked, "Why me when fear outweighs my courage?" The spirit replied, "Because you are the one who feels both, and only through fear does true strength emerge." Tears streamed as she whispered, "I will try, though I stumble." The ancestors raised their arms, and the broken pendant in her hand pulsed with faint light. Amahle awoke suddenly, her body trembling, sweat covering her face. Kofi rushed to her side, saying, "Amahle, what did you see?" She whispered, "I saw the truth. It is not mine alone to carry, but ours to protect." Her voice shook, but her spirit steadied with conviction. At dawn, Amahle walked to the river with Kofi and Jabari following. The village trailed behind at a distance, watching with wary anticipation. The river glistened like glass, its surface rippling with unseen power. Amahle raised the pendant, whispering, "Guide me, ancestors." The water swirled, forming shapes of spirits dancing in the current. Jabari muttered under his breath, "Illusions do not feed the hungry." Kofi snapped, "Silence, Jabari, or reveal your true heart." Amahle stood firm, voice ringing clear, "This river remembers. Through it, I will carry our story forward." The water calmed suddenly, glowing faintly as if blessing her. The villagers gasped, their faith reignited with awe. Amahle turned, her face shining with determination, saying, "This is not the end of sorrow, but the beginning of our strength." The council of elders gathered in the village circle, their faces marked with age and suspicion, the fire casting restless shadows. Amahle stood tall, her voice steady though her heart trembled. "The ancestors have shown me the path, and I must follow." One elder leaned forward, frowning. A young girl cannot carry such weight. We need strength, not visions. Jabari's eyes flickered with triumph as he said, perhaps leadership belongs to one with courage and clarity. Amahle's gaze hardened, though sorrow touched her words. I do not seek power, only to protect our bloodline and the land. Kofi stepped beside her, his hand on his spear, his voice fierce. She carries the truth of the ancestors, and I will fight for her right to walk this path. Murmurs rippled through the circle, doubt clashing with hope, the fire crackling like an angry witness. The night thickened with tension, the seed of betrayal silently taking root. At dawn, Jabari stood before a group of restless villagers, his voice smooth as honey, dripping with poison. Amahle follows shadows, he declared, but I can bring light and prosperity. The crowd shifted uneasily, torn between fear and faith. A young villager asked, will you defy the ancestors? Jabari smiled, his eyes cold. The ancestors are gone. We must walk forward alone. The words cut deep, spreading doubt like wildfire through the hearts of many. From the distance, Amahle and Kofi watched, their faces tight with anguish. Amahle whispered, he twists their fear into chains. Kofi growled, and soon he will bind the whole village. The sun rose higher, its warmth failing to touch the chill creeping into the hearts of her people. Amahle clenched her fists, whispering, I will not let him destroy what Elder Nia protected. The river's wind carried her vow, but Jabari's lies grew heavier by the moment. That evening, Amahle walked alone to the sacred grove, the pendant warm in her palm. She whispered, Elder Nia, how do I protect them from their own fears? The wind rustled, carrying the faint voice of an ancestor. Truth shines brightest in darkness. Tears glistened in her eyes as she whispered, but their eyes are blind. Suddenly, Jabari appeared from the shadows, his voice sharp, you cling to spirits while the people starve. Amahle turned, anger flashing, you twist their grief into your power. His smile was bitter, his words cold, if you will not lead, I will. And I will bury the past with you. Amahle gripped the pendant tighter, her breath unsteady. Then you have already betrayed your blood. The grove darkened, the fireflies dimming as though even the spirits mourned. Amahle's steps shook, but her spirit burned brighter in defiance. Later the villagers gathered again in the circle, fire roaring high. Jabari stepped forward, his voice commanding, Amahle walks with ghosts, but I walk with tomorrow. The crowd murmured, some nodding, some shaking their heads. Amahle raised her voice, trembling yet firm, the past is not dead. It breathes through us, and without it, we are nothing. A woman cried out, Elder Nia trusted her. Kofi's voice boomed, and so do I, with my life. Jabari sneered, his eyes glinting, then you are both blind, clinging to ashes. Amahle's gaze burned, her voice breaking with passion. We are not ashes. We are the flame that cannot die. The villagers fell silent, torn between faith and betrayal. The fire hissed and cracked, sparks rising into the night sky like spirits refusing to fade. Deep into the night, Amahle stood by the sacred river, her reflection rippling in the moonlight. She whispered, I am breaking, yet I must remain whole. Kofi approached, his voice soft, Amahle, your strength lies not in being unbroken, but in rising each time you fall. She looked at him, her eyes heavy with exhaustion, yet glowing with defiance. Then I will rise, even if it is only to fall again tomorrow. The river shimmered faintly, the ancestors' voices echoing softly. Stand, child, for the truth cannot be drowned. Jabari's distant laughter echoed through the village, a haunting sound of betrayal tightening its grip. Amahle pressed the pendant against her chest, whispering, I will carry this heart, even if it tears me apart. The moon shone brighter, casting silver light as though blessing her vow. The night carried a heavy silence as Amahle stood at the edge of the forest, the pendant glowing faintly in her hand. Kofi whispered, this is where the trials begin. She breathed deeply, her chest heavy with fear and resolve, saying, if I fail, our people are lost. The trees loomed high, their branches like grasping fingers. Jabari lingered behind, eyes narrowed, muttering, "If she falls, I will rise." Amahle stepped forward, and the earth beneath her trembled, shadows twisting into figures with hollow eyes. Her heart pounded, yet her voice cut through the dread. "I walk in the light of my ancestors, not in fear." Kofi raised his spear, standing firmly beside her. The first trial had begun, testing not her strength, but her courage to step forward into the unknown. The shadows lunged, their forms twisting like smoke, their whispers echoing with the voices of the lost. Amahle staggered, clutching the pendant to her chest. She cried, "Ancestors, guide me through." The whispers mocked her, repeating her doubts. "You are weak, unworthy, broken." Kofi's spear slashed through the dark forms, his voice strong. "Amahle, listen only to truth, not lies." She closed her eyes, breathing deeply, whispering, "I am my people's heart." The pendant pulsed with light, scattering the shadows into nothing. Jabari's eyes widened in the distance, frustration crossing his face as he muttered, "She cannot last forever." The forest grew quiet again, leaving only Amahle's trembling breath and Kofi's steady presence at her side. As dawn broke, Amahle entered a rocky canyon, its walls echoing with the sound of rushing wind. She said, "The second trial awaits." A chasm opened before her, vast and deep, a river of fire raging below. Kofi said, "This path demands trust. Amahle, step and the spirits will carry you." Her knees trembled, fear clawing at her chest. Jabari's smirk sharpened. "Or fall, and let me lead instead." Amahle clenched the pendant and whispered, "I carry the courage of my ancestors." She stepped forward onto the void, her foot meeting unseen ground that shimmered like light. Each step was agony and faith woven together, but she walked steadily, the river below roaring with fury. Kofi followed without hesitation, while Jabari lingered, envy burning in his eyes. Later, deep in the canyon, Amahle faced a cave with walls glistening like mirrors. As she entered, the reflections shifted, showing her failures, her fears, and her moments of weakness. She saw herself as a child crying by the river, as a young woman trembling before the elders, as a broken soul at Nia's side. Amahle whispered, "These are not who I am, but who I was." The mirrors cracked, the images shattering into shards of light. A voice of an ancestor spoke, "You carry not perfection but growth." Kofi stepped beside her, his eyes proud. "Amahle, you are stronger than any lie." Jabari sneered from the entrance, muttering, "Strength built on illusion will fall." Amahle placed her hand on the pendant, whispering, "Then let the truth be my strength." The cave trembled, glowing brighter as if the ancestors had blessed her acceptance. At sunset, Amahle and Kofi emerged from the trials, their bodies weary but their spirits unbroken. The pendant glowed brighter, pulsing with renewed life. Amahle raised it to the sky, whispering, "Elder Nia, I carry your wisdom forward." The villagers waiting at the edge of the forest gasped at the sight of her, whispers of awe spreading like wildfire. Kofi said, "She has walked a path none dared to tread." Jabari forced a smile, hiding his frustration, his voice smooth. "Perhaps the trials favor illusions after all." Amahle stepped forward, her voice clear and firm. "These trials are no illusions. They are truth, carved by the ancestors." The sun sank behind the mountains, painting the sky red and gold, the moment marking a new chapter in her journey. The people bowed, their hope renewed, though the shadow of betrayal lingered unseen. The night air was thick with tension, as Amahle stood before the sacred fire, the pendant pulsing brighter than ever before. She whispered, "Why do you call me so strongly tonight?" The flames roared higher, and a figure emerged within them, a spirit cloaked in light. The spirit said, "You are not merely the heir of Nia's wisdom, Amahle, but the blood of kings long forgotten." Her breath caught, her eyes wide. "I am no queen, only a child of exile." The spirit's voice thundered, "Your lineage was hidden to protect you, but now truth must rise." The fire crackled, casting shadows that twisted like crowns upon her head. Kofi stepped forward, awe on his face. "Amahle, this explains why the trials bent to your will." She turned to him, tears breaking free. I never asked for this destiny. The spirit's final words echoed, destiny does not ask, it demands. The fire dimmed, leaving silence heavy with truth. Amahle sat trembling under the sacred tree, the revelation still burning within her heart. She whispered, if my blood is royal, then why was I left in shadows? The wind stirred, carrying faint ancestral voices to protect what was fragile until the time was right. Kofi knelt before her, his voice firm, you were not abandoned, you were preserved. Amahle looked at him, her expression torn, but the people see me as only a girl of humble birth. He replied, then show them the queen that has always lived within you. Jabari stepped from the shadows, his laughter bitter. So this is the great truth? A crown built on lies? Amahle's eyes narrowed, her voice sharp with growing strength. Not lies, Jabari, but survival. The tree's leaves shimmered faintly, as if blessing her words, even as Jabari's envy deepened like a wound. At dawn, Amahle addressed the village, her voice carrying strength she did not feel. I am of blood once thought lost, descended from those who carried the sacred heart of our people. Gasps rippled through the crowd, disbelief and awe colliding. One elder demanded, where is the proof of such claim? Amahle raised the pendant high, its cracks glowing brighter, whispering with ancestral energy. The villagers murmured, some kneeling in reverence, others shaking their heads in doubt. Jabari shouted, a trinket and a tail do not make a queen. Kofi's spear struck the ground, his voice thunderous, her trials have proven more than your words ever could. Amahle's tears fell as she cried, I never sought power, only truth. But if truth demands I lead, then I accept. The sun broke through clouds, light striking the pendant like fire, silencing every voice. That night, Amahle dreamt once more, the ancestral plane opening before her eyes. The spirits circled, their voices joined in a single chant. Sacred heart, sacred blood, sacred truth. One spirit stepped forward, a woman cloaked in shells and beads, her voice both tender and commanding. I am your grandmother, Amahle, the queen who fell so you might rise. Amahle's heart broke as she whispered, I carry your blood, but how do I carry your strength? The spirit smiled, touching her chest. Strength is not carried, it is awakened. Amahle sobbed, yet her spirit grew steady, whispering, then awaken me, for I will not falter. The spirit's voices rose into thunder, and the plain blazed with light. She awoke, gasping, the pendant glowing like fire in her hand. Kofi's voice echoed softly in the hut. You saw them again, didn't you? She nodded, whispering, and now I know who I am. By morning, Amahle stood upon the sacred hill overlooking the land, the pendant blazing brighter than ever. She whispered, this is my inheritance, not of power, but of duty. Kofi placed his hand firmly on her shoulder, saying, then let us defend it together. Jabari lingered behind them, bitterness twisting his face as he muttered, if she is queen, then I am nothing. Amahle turned slowly, her voice steady, you are my blood, Jabari, but your path is your own to choose. His expression faltered, torn between rage and regret. The villagers gathered below, lifting their voices in chants, calling her name. Amahle raised the pendant high, declaring by the sacred heart, I vow to lead not as ruler, but as servant of my people. The crowd roared in unity, the sound carrying across the hills. The revelation was complete. Amahle had accepted her destiny. Storm clouds swallowed the horizon, as Amahle stood at the sacred hill, the pendant blazing like fire in her hand. She whispered, this is where destiny tests me. The villagers gathered below, fear and hope etched on their faces. Jabari strode forward, spear gleaming, his voice sharp, you are no savior, Amahle, you are weakness dressed in tradition. She raised her chin, her voice steady despite her pounding heart. I am no weakness, I am the heart of our ancestors. Kofi stepped between them, his stance protective. If you want her, you must face me first. Jabari snarled, then both of you will fall. The storm cracked overhead, lightning igniting the sky, as the first clash of destiny began on the sacred hill. The clash erupted like thunder, Kofi's spear meeting Jabari's with sparks of steel. Jabari shouted, "You protect lies," while Kofi roared, "I protect truth, even if it kills me." Amahle stood behind them, pendant glowing brighter, her heart torn between fighting and guiding. The villagers cried out, urging her to act. She closed her eyes, whispering, "Ancestors, give me strength." The pendant pulsed, and the storm above swirled violently, as though the spirits themselves prepared to descend. Jabari pushed Kofi back, his eyes burning with rage. "She cannot lead. You know it." Amahle's voice pierced the chaos. "I do not lead for myself, but for us all." The ground shook beneath their feet. The battle no longer just of men, but of destiny. Amahle stepped forward, the pendant blazing so bright it lit the hill like sunrise. Her voice thundered, "This is not a battle for crown or pride, it is a battle for the sacred heart of our people." Jabari sneered, "Then prove it, cousin." His strike lunged toward her, but Kofi blocked it, staggering under the blow. Amahle's tears fell, but her strength surged, whispering, "Elder Nia, guide me now." The pendant's cracks sealed with sudden brilliance, releasing waves of light. Jabari staggered, blinded, his voice shaking, "What power is this?" Amahle lifted the pendant high, declaring, "It is the power of truth, carried by blood, not stolen by envy." The storm above broke open, thunder roaring like voices of countless ancestors. Jabari screamed, charging again, his spear aimed at Amahle's heart. Kofi leapt forward, intercepting the strike, his body straining as steel clashed with steel. He shouted, "Amahle, finish this!" Amahle's hands trembled as she raised the pendant higher, its light spilling across the battlefield. The ancestors' voices rose in chorus, "Child of storm, break the chain." Amahle cried, "No more blood shall be spilled." The light surged outward, striking Jabari's weapon and shattering it to fragments. He fell to his knees, eyes wide, whispering, "Why do they choose you and not me?" Amahle's tears fell as she said, "Because I did not choose power. It chose me." The storm broke into rain, washing blood and sorrow into the soil. The storm eased, leaving the sky painted with streaks of dawn light. Amahle stood trembling, pendant glowing steady, her voice breaking yet strong. "The sacred heart is not mine. It is ours." The villagers erupted in chants of her name, their voices echoing across the hills. Jabari remained on his knees, tears mixing with rain, whispering, "I only wanted to be seen." Amahle knelt before him, her hand on his shoulder, saying softly, "You are seen, Jabari, but not as a thief of destiny, only as my blood." Kofi stood tall beside them, his voice steady, "You have ended what he began, Amahle. You have saved us all." Amahle gazed at the pendant, its light gentle now, whispering, "Elder Nia, the curse is broken." The land seemed to exhale, peace returning like the first breath after storm. The dawn spread gold across the hills as Amahle stood at the sacred tree, her pendant glowing with soft, steady light. Villagers surrounded her, their voices hushed with reverence. She said, "The storm has ended, but its lessons remain." Her voice carried a weight deeper than before, shaped by trials and revelation. Kofi stood at her side, his hand steady on his spear, saying, "You have given us back our courage." She smiled faintly, her eyes heavy with both weariness and pride. "Courage is not mine to give. It was always within you." Jabari lingered at the edge, his head bowed low, shame battling with sorrow. Amahle walked toward him, her hand resting gently on his shoulder. She whispered, "You will always be my blood, even if shadows tempted you." Jabari's tears fell as he whispered, "Forgive me." Amahle nodded softly, saying, "The ancestors forgive, and so must we." By midday, the villagers gathered to rebuild what the storm had torn. Women sang as they wove new cloths, men repaired the huts, and children carried water with laughter returning to their voices. Amahle moved among them, her hands working beside theirs, refusing to stand above them. She said, "A leader does not command from afar, she walks in the dust with her people." Villagers smiled, some weeping with gratitude. Kofi looked at her with admiration, saying, "You lead with strength because you lead with love." Amahle touched his arm, whispering, "Love is the truest inheritance of our bloodline." Even Jabari joined in, his hands lifting timber, his eyes downcast yet seeking redemption. The village pulsed with new life, the curse broken, unity restored. As the sun lowered, Amahle sat by the river, her reflection steady now, not trembling as before. She whispered, "Elder Nia, I carry your words within me." The water shimmered, rippling faintly with ancestral glow, and she felt their voices again. "Child of storm, you are now child of peace." Tears filled her eyes, but they were no longer of sorrow, only gratitude. Kofi sat nearby, silent, watching her with quiet respect. Amahle turned to him, saying softly, "Without you, I would not have survived the shadows." He shook his head firmly. "Without you, there would be no light to protect." The river glowed softly, fireflies dancing above it, as though blessing their bond. Amahle's heart steadied, no longer fractured, ready for what lay beyond. That night, the village gathered for a great feast, drums echoing and fires blazing high. Amahle danced among her people, her laughter light for the first time since the trials began. The villagers sang her name, their voices lifted in celebration of survival and rebirth. Kofi joined her in the dance, his eyes never leaving hers, his spirit proud. Jabari stood on the edge of the firelight, hesitant, but Amahle extended her hand, smiling warmly. She said, "We rise together or not at all." For a moment, Jabari's shame broke, and he stepped into the circle, his movements uncertain but sincere. The drums beat faster, the flames roared higher, and for the first time, the village felt whole again. Amahle whispered to herself, "This is the heart we fought to protect." At dawn's first light, Amahle stood alone at the sacred hill, gazing across the land, bathed in soft morning glow. She whispered, "Elder Nia, ancestors, I have walked the path you set before me." The pendant glowed gently, no longer burdened with cracks, but whole again. She pressed it to her chest, saying, "I am not queen of crowns or power, but guardian of love, of blood, of land." The wind whispered through the grass, carrying ancestral voices of approval. Amahle closed her eyes, breathing deeply, her spirit calm, her heart unshaken. Behind her, the village stirred awake, life beginning anew. She turned once more to the horizon, her silhouette framed by the rising sun. Amahle whispered softly, "The sacred heart beats on," her voice fading into the morning, leaving silence heavy with peace.